Hello and welcome back to my Satisfactory guide. In this video I'm going to show you the undeniable, hands down, best way to use dimensional depots. Then I'm going to show you how I'm using them. Why am I using them differently? Well, it all comes down to efficiency, but that's for you to find out by the end of this video. First, let's begin with a quick crash course on dimensional storage. Dimensional depots represent a fairly limited storage space for items, somewhere in another dimension presumably, that you can access wherever and whenever you want through your inventory. This can be really handy when you are away from your factory building outposts. And please note that pulling items from storage is purely a manual operation, so using this technology to move items between factories is simply not possible. The technology is accessed through MEM research and it requires a Mercer sphere and 10 SEM fluctuators to unlock. Item storage will initially be limited to one stack and upload speed is going to be really slow, about 15 items per minute, but can be further increased through upgrades, each upgrade requiring Mercer spheres to unlock. The depot themselves also cost Mercer spheres, which is a limited resource. There are 298 Mercer spheres in Satisfactory and you will use 97 of them to unlock and upgrade the dimensional storage technology. That leaves you with 201 possible depots to build, which is actually more than enough to cover your needs, since having multiple depots for the same item will not increase the storage limit, but will only increase the upload speed. So it's something you might consider for very common high volume items. Last thing to mention is that there is a box in your inventory that you can check to prioritize using items from your inventory rather than the cloud. So what's the best way to use them? Attach them to your central storage hub, of course. It makes perfect sense to feed the resources from your storage an extra step into a dimensional depot. And we will talk about how to set that up along with dimensional arrays and why you might need them in just a minute. But first, I'm gonna tell you why I don't use them in this way. The answer is very simple. I don't have a central storage, and I've never felt the need for one. A central storage hub takes a long time to set up, especially at the start of the game when you're constantly unlocking new resources and are still figuring out what items are important and what are not. Instead, what I do is attach a splitter to each production line and feed it into a dimensional depot. It's that simple. This way you get 100% of the benefit of dimensional storage, since they can be scattered across your factory with no actual downside for only 10% of the effort. That seems like a pretty good deal, don't you agree? Sure, it might not be as clean, and of course you have to remember where everything is. You can't rely on dimensional storage for every resource, but it saves you a lot of time. In contrast, if you already plan on having a central storage, it doesn't make sense to put your depots anywhere else. But why use dimensional storage anyway? Why should you bother? I mean, getting Mercer spheres is pretty hard, right? Well, dimensional depots provide a steady stream of resources for you to use when you are out exploring or creating new outposts. When you are all the way across the map and missing just a few resources to complete a project, having a dimensional storage can be a godsend. You will not believe how helpful it is, especially if you play solo. Sometimes it's going to be all that is preventing you from having to take another boring 15-minute train ride all the way across the map just so you can create another single smart splitter. And those 15-minute train rides can add up and feel quite cumbersome, believe me. Also, unlocking the option to upload from your inventory can help you declutter your inventory, making room for those rare items you might find exploring, like something you have not unlocked yet and you need, or summer sloops, or Mercer spheres for that matter. This can, however, be quite expensive at the start of the game. It costs 3 Mercer spheres and 17 computers. So before I had this unlocked, I always had a centrally located depot where I can just throw things into. I highly recommend this. What items should you store in them? I recommend prioritizing building materials, so stuff that you need to build factories at your current progression. Concrete, iron pipes, iron bars, copper wire and cables are essential for factory building. Steel pipes and beams are also good to have once you progress through the game, along with encased beams and of course plastic and rubber and so on. You can start adding more specialized items like motors and rotors to reduce time spent handcrafting, if you can spare the Mercer sphere of course. Just don't waste your time with project parts or stuff like containers. You will probably never use those. You should add more parts as you progress through the game, so that you are never truly missing crucial items for factory building. And while it's tempting to just feed a sushi belt of various items into a depot to save on space and Mercer spheres, you need to be really careful, because only one item can be uploaded at a time. And if the storage for that particular item happens to be full, it will block the whole belt and not allow any of the other items to be uploaded. Okay, so let's talk about central storage hubs. The concept is simple. Gather all your excess resources in a single area. Put them in storage containers so that you have enough of each item for whatever project you would like to do. In this hub, you should have access to every single item that you are producing, and they should be easily accessible. Since every resource is here, it makes it the best place to pick and choose what items you should store into your dimensional storage. I got inspired by this type of build from someone else and I really liked it. So the main storage sits one level above the ground and the dimensional depots are hidden under the floor, out of sight, out of mind. But what happens when you plan to expand faster than gravity recommends and you need more resources than your inventory can emotionally handle? You build a dimensional array, which means that for those specific high volume resources, you'll have multiple depots uploading them, thus increasing your upload speed by the same number of times as many depots as you have. This way you can continue your expansion at an alarming rate without the need for any downtime, like any good pioneer should. I mentioned it's bad to use sushi belts, but there is one acceptable way to use them. If you really want to have your depots all in one place, or even if you quickly want to set up a central storage, using smart splitters, there is a way to do it. You bring all your items on a single belt and sort them out into their individual depots using smart splitters, but make sure you feed the overflow into a sink to not back up the belt. If you put a container before the depot, you also get your central storage, but at the cost of limited speed. This might not be an issue for the depots themselves, since they have very slow upload speed anyway, but if you also want to store in containers, it might end up being slower since you will be limited by one belt. And that's literally everything you need to know about dimensional storage, with a little bit of information on central storage. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And come back for more Satisfactory tips.